The August 17th Board of Health meeting is now in session. Since some of our members are online, I just need to make sure they can hear me. So I'll do a roll call. Meredith Lepre,
Here.
James Cooper,
Here.
Ann Smith,
Here.
Carrie McKenna.
Here.
So we're all here. Just to remind you all that this meeting is being audio and visually recorded. Are there any public comments on any issue that you'd like to speak about that are not on the agenda? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on. We have 3 minutes to approve. June 15th, July 6th, and July 20th. If there are any comments on any of those minutes by any members of the board,
I'm good.
do I hear a motion for approval?
I'll so move.
Second?
Second.
Okay, by roll call, Meredith Lepre,
Yes.
James Cooper,
Yes.
Ann Smith,
Yes.
Carrie McKenna,
Yes.
and the chairman votes aye. Those minutes are approved. I just want to have a question about one at the end. We have 3 Hussey Street Guest House operating without a permit. Staff member.
So this one is a yes, this is the operation without a permit. Every year, what we've been seeing is a pattern of behavior where the lodging house opens, starts accepting people, and then they come in for the permit. So what we have been looking at is usually what happens is a person just pays 4 times the fee, which is the penalty. But now that it's been a couple times that this has happened, we are recommending as the staff, and it's in the packet as well, that if this happens again next year, that we would suspend the permit.
Comments, sir?
Yes, I believe the owner.
Up to the microphone and identify yourself, please.
What he said and was stated is correct.
Could you move the microphone down? Thank you. Perfect.
It was an oversight on my part. It will not happen again.
Are there any questions from the board? Does the board have any issue with the present recommendation of the health department as to the penalty? Which would be then a 1-month suspension if the violation, the same type, occurs in the future. Do we hear a motion?
So moved. To accept the
Second? Do we hear a second?
Second, sorry.
Any further discussion on the motion? The motion is relating to 3 Hussey Street for 1 month suspension if subsequent violation of the same type of violation occurs. By roll call, Meredith Lepre,
Yes.
James Cooper,
Yes.
Ann Smith,
Yes.
Terry McKenna.
Yes.
Chairman votes yes. That penalty will occur if there's a violation occurs in the future.
Thank you.
Soil absorption system of property line 6 Nichols Road.
Yes.
Good,
So
I was a little confused about what this is.
yes, so I believe this has already been approved by the board before. However, the variance did expire because the variance is only good for the 1 year. So we do have no objections on this, but also for the applicant, Don is present.
Why
If you have any
did we
questions.
do it for 1 year?
Oh, that's usually just the way our variances only go for the year that go with the permit.
Got you,
They go with the permit.
sir.
Yes, that's exactly right. So the plans haven't changed at all. It just took a lot longer to start construction. They called us to start getting ready to put the system in when we realized that it had just expired in March. So
Okay.
we had to reapply.
Any questions from the board? Do I hear a motion to extend the variance?
So move.
Second,
Second.
any further discussion? By roll call, Meredith Lepre,
Yes.
James Cooper,
Yes.
Ann Smith,
Yes.
Terry McKenna,
Yes.
and the chairman votes yes, so the variance is extended.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Water line setbacks, Oak ROI Avenue.
Correct. So this one is they're asking for the setbacks distance from the water line and the sewer line to be less than 10 feet. The two lines are sleeved and but they are less than 10 feet as it stands. This is a situation where we found the line already there and it is within the 10 feet. So the staff recommendation is to deny because there is an opportunity to fit. However, there is other discussions and property, what's the word? Scenarios that we can work with, and the applicant is present today.
Go right ahead, sir. Just identify yourself and
Hi, I'm Nate Barber. I'm the contractor for this project at 8 Orkawa. So I filed the variance because of as the water line runs to the cabana, it violates the 10 foot of separation. We did sleeve the water line with PVC pipe and foam on the ends, but it does get tight there. The cabana is a one half bath, and it's for seasonal use, so it's limited usage. It's not that necessarily that you can just widen that path. Probably most likely we'd have to go all the way around an alternative route, which is also through a wooded area. So there's a little bit of more destruction involved to get the water line 10 feet away from the sewer line.
okay, so comments, questions from the board?
I'd like to hear from staff.
John Hedden, Chief Environmental Health Officer with the Health Department. Yeah, so the setback from any sewer line and a water line is 10 feet. That's confirmed by DEP through emails. It's not 100% concrete clear when you read Title V, but that's what DEP has always relayed to myself. And I can say pretty much most often every plan I've reviewed from engineers, the lines are always shown as 10 feet apart. I would just say that there are certain scenarios where maybe they get a little bit closer coming into the building or some scenario of that sort, which we've required them to sleeve the water line pressurized pipe. And that's also due to Title V does allow for a sewer line and a water line to cross as long as they're in the pressurized pipe. So I think unfortunately with this one, there is room to separate the line a bit. I'm not sure, however they figure that out with the engineer. So
Could they have done it the way it was supposed to be
Could you
done?
put your microphone on? Oh, your microphone.
Oh, sorry. Could they have done it the way it was supposed to be done?
there is room on the property. Yeah. So.
Yes,
Don Bracken. I'm also happen to be the engineer for the project. I just wanted to add a little bit of history from my experience in designing septic systems since 1984, roughly. And it has always been the case that you have to have a 10-foot setback from septic tanks, pump chambers, soil absorption systems. There's never been anything in Title V with a specific setback to a sewer line itself. And I can tell you from past experiences, all the projects we've done, it's, that 10-foot separation has never been implemented or enforced. And I understand there's now a new interpretation from DEP, as John had said, and we're not disputing that. We're also not disputing that it's good practice to keep them 10 feet apart no matter what, even if it hasn't been spelled out in Title V. And that's usually what has always been done. But we've had a lot of instances lately, and there's going to be a lot more instances, I think, where we're going to have these conflicts with sewer lines and water lines just because of the density of the development on each of these lots. And from a practical standpoint, my own professional opinion, I don't think there's anything environmentally at risk here by having these lines that close together. In almost every case, there's always, circumstances where, you're not going to be able to meet that. And as I said, historically, when it hasn't been met, it's been sleeved, and we've always moved on. We've never had to ask for a variance or anything like that for these type of situations in the past. I understand things change, but I just wanted to offer my opinion on that. Obviously, this is a case where it could be relocated, but it's not as easy as it may sound to relocate it in this case, and there could be future cases that are going to be similar.
Right. I still want to ask him my question. Could they have done it the way it's supposed to be done from the beginning?
They could have, yes,
They
but
could have.
I believe there are circumstances in this case, as the applicant explained why they didn't.
But they could have done
It is possible, but again, at what cost and what means? And at the end, you're really not accomplishing anything as protecting health, safety, and welfare.
How far apart are they actually?
We did the as-built plan on it, and, we brought it to everybody's attention, and I think that's why he came into the Board Health Office and asked for the variance. I would say on average, it's probably about 5 feet away. There are places where maybe, 3 feet maybe at the closest point as it gets closer to the structure.
Meredith?
I'm sorry, the AC went on and I didn't hear why they can't, or what would happen if they moved them to where they're supposed to be. I just didn't hear what Nate said.
So as you can see in the picture, the pool
Let me
area
share my
there.
screen real quick
Yeah, let's.
so that I can pull it up here. And then, sorry, I need to share the screen with, there we go.
So the constraints are obviously the garage, the pool, the cabana, and then right to that, the right of that blue line is a wooded area. So those were the constraints that we had. So if you want to do this with 10 feet of separation, what you'll have to do is come out of the proposed garage studio on that southeast corner, wrap around the proposed garage studio, and then go through a wooded area to the back of the cabana, which
So,
would consist of cutting through tree roots and a forested area.
yeah, so basically what Nate is saying is that coming out of the garage in this area where the mouse is pointing, it would have to come down and around across.
But that's basically because the pool is in the way.
The pool and the forested area to the right of that blue water line.
But if they didn't have the pool, then they could put these lines 10 feet apart and there wouldn't be an issue.
That's correct.
I would say that, and I'm not an expert in this, but I think there are two things. One is 3 feet is very close. And I would think that there could be a potential health risk to a water supply to have a sewer line within 3 feet of it. If, anything were to happen to the sewer line or anything like that. The second is, if we approve this with this with places where it's 3 or 5 feet, what kind of a precedent have we established for other applications? And that worries me a little. I mean, maybe have we suddenly established a precedent?
Go ahead, Kerry.
Yeah, I guess I'm piggybacking on Ann, and that, he had mentioned that we're going to have a lot more of these situations, and that's because what we are building are bigger structures taking up more of the property. I guess I'm concerned about that. I think the Board of Health has to focus on health and not convenience. If these are all proposed, they're not built yet, I'm assuming, and adjustments can be made. So I have serious concerns about always kind of like whittling away, saying, well, that's okay. And what we're doing is we're building bigger and bigger houses, taking more and more resources and creating more potential for stuff to happen. So I have a lot of concerns about this.
So after some discussion, I'd like to withdraw my variance request.
I have another question. How deep is the sewer line and how deep is the water line where they cross?
Yeah, I can say, I don't know the exact numbers, but usually the water line is at least 4 feet deep. So
Yep.
it's between 4 and 5 feet deep. And the sewer line probably in that situation is only a couple of feet deep. So the sewer line would be higher than the water line. And there really is no health threat because the water line is under pressure.
Mhm.
And plus it's sleeved in the pipe. So that's why I said earlier, it's really not a health and safety issue. It's more of, practical practice, as far as keeping the separation if they ever have to get repaired or replaced.
I'd like to,
Go right ahead.
I'd like to withdraw
Yeah.
my variance.
I'm having trouble with my ears. I'm sorry.
I'd like to withdraw the
Fine.
variance.
Okay.
It was just one comment. Thanks for your time. Appreciate it. Well said. Okay.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for your
Okay.
time.
Thank you.
Okay,
And it's fine as withdrawn. It raises an issue that's been discussed here.
Yeah.
Because our usual standard for most things, if there's an alternative way of doing something, at least in other situations, we have generally not allowed a variance. But this is a little different because this is a new twist. It's not really a Title V.
It's going to be an odd situation moving forward. And one of the conversations that I did have with the applicant earlier is, and Don mentioned it actually perfectly earlier, as density starts moving up, these sorts of sites are going to be more and more densely populated, and they're going to be tighter to navigate. And we're going to see moments where lines cross due to pre-existing conditions. And I think we're going to see things more often. This one was a very mild representation of what we might see in the future. But the new Title V is in place, and they do have. There is a way to make it fit, just like Don was saying, in order to prevent any sort of health and safety issue. Water line above a sewer line by at least a couple feet to prevent any cross-contamination due to gravity. And then the water line is under pressure and sleeved. So it's kind of like wearing belts with suspenders. So it's a practicality discussion more than it is a health and safety discussion.
Yeah.
Meredith's point is well received in that there is a convenience feature on the site that gets in the way. And that's kind of a first world Nantucket's problem that we're going to see here.
You anticipate more of these?
Possibly in the future. Not in the same situation as this, but in different ways.
Okay.
But we
Thank you
do,
for letting me participate, because this is helpful for future projects and trying to guide people in the right locations.
Yeah.
What
The best way to guide people is find a way to not bring it here.
Yeah, they don't always follow the plan, when
Oh,
field
follow-
adjustments.
Follow the
Yeah.
plans and keep
Yeah.
them separated
Yeah.
Thank you.
by
Yeah.
levels.
Yeah, fitting tight property lines is always going to be a little hard because now, just like with this property, when we move it to the other side, when they move the water line to the other side, there's now property line setbacks that is going to be discussed. So it's, 6 of one, half dozen of the other when we come into these sorts of situations.
Okay.
Mhm.
Next, we have nitrogen loading credit, 63 Sconset Street.
Yes, so this one is just a simple upgrade as we've been discussing before. We've have no objection to this one at
Yeah.
all.
We've done this before.
Yes, plenty.
Are there you have any comments?
Yeah,
Go right ahead. You should become a member of our board.
I'm off after this, yeah. I've spent my time on boards years ago, so. This one we looked at actually a couple of meetings ago, where there was an existing house on the property that had its own septic system. And we wanted to build a new house and put a septic system in just for that. But the existing house had an older system. So the board wanted us to put a new system in for both of them, combine it into one system, which is what we've done on the revised plan that we submitted. But I have further good news because the client does not want to build a 9-bedroom system. They want to build an 8-bedroom system instead to save some money because of the septic tank sizes and the cost overall of the system that they receive. So I would ask you to approve it as written, with the exception, instead of 9 bedrooms, it's going to be 8 bedrooms, which makes the loading even that much less on the land area.
Comments or questions from the board? You hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I think Carrie had a comment.
Yeah, I had a question. So again, I just want to confirm, it's now an 8-bedroom house. And is the septic system being decreased in size, or is what was originally presented last month? What we talked about in terms of combining, is that what's happening?
Yeah, the septic system is being increased in size because now we're taking the existing 2-bedroom house and combining it with the new house for one system total. So the new house is 4 bedrooms, and the existing house is 2 with the availability to go up to 8. So.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
thank you. So we do have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? By roll call. Meredith Lepre,
Yes.
James Cooper,
Yes.
Ann Smith,
Yes.
Carrie McKenna,
Yes,
and the chair votes aye. That is approved.
Thank you.
Okay, Great Harbor Yacht Club.
Oh, I think.
Yeah, slip 14 is
There's
first.
one for it.
Slip 14, suspension hearing accepting and or providing food from a non-approved source. Do you want to explain it and then we'll listen?
Yes, so on the request of the environmental police officer, we did do a joint inspection of slip 14 on, I have the date here. On Monday, August 7th. So, and when we were there, we did witness a collar and tail of yellowfin tuna that was on site. The discussion with the person in charge at the time did reveal that they mentioned that there was no receipt of illegal or unapproved source tuna, and all of their receipts, that invoices were provided to us were for bluefin tuna. When discussed with the provider of this of the tuna, the legally sourced tuna, he did also mention that he never provides whole fish. He only provides loins. So after discussion internally, we did recommend that we do suspend the permit for 3 days. The inspector is here, Sean, and then also for the applicants, the owners of the business are here as well.
Okay. Owners want to speak?
Good afternoon, Tim Farley and Brendan Connor here. I wanted to begin by saying we have the utmost respect for the health department, Sean and Roberto, and the work they do. We do see that's vital for the restaurant community, that they do their jobs, so people can have a safe dining experience. That being said, on the morning when Sean came to Slip 14, we spoke about the fish in question here. And at that time, I was not trying to be deceptive. I was unaware of the actual fish that had come in on the previous weekend. So that's kind of on me. And I take responsibility for not knowing all the actions at my restaurant. But after we met that morning, Sean asked me to do some research. And in my research, I did find out that we did, in fact, accept the fish. Again, I wish I would have known that before he showed up on the morning, but I believe since then I've been trying to provide accurate information. The fish came in as a gift to our staff over the course of the weekend. There's a big fishing tournament called the Big Game Battle. A lot of the fishermen are big supporters of our restaurant. They've gotten to know our team over the years. So when this fish came in, it was after dinner service, one of our members who isn't familiar with the regulations accepted it. And then, so that's how that happened. And again, we were responsible for our team. And it's something that we've taken very seriously since our meetings. We've already taken action, had a staff-wide meeting to reinforce that this is no joking matter, that we can't accept fish from illegal sources. We have placed signage on all of our refrigeration, instructing all of our team members not to accept fish from illegal sources. The fish that did come in, we used for a staff meal and as gifts for our staff, as it's intended from the fishermen. Staff meal being a traditional Nantucket where before dinner service, we all get to sit down and enjoy a meal together, discuss the operations of the restaurant and things like that. And sometimes we really want to, show a thank you to our staff by giving them something nice to eat, something they might not be able to afford on their nights off. As we know, the price of fish is pretty expensive. So again, we do want to treat our staff, and take care of them. And also on that note, we are definitely going back to educate everyone, front of the house, back of the house, about issues like this. And we want to be very proactive and basically never let it happen again, and assure your team that you can trust us that it won't happen again. So thank you.
Any other comments, questions from the board?
I'd like to hear from,
Go right ahead.
I'd like to hear from the board here.
Yep, John Hedden for the health department. So yeah, it was found, I know the environmental police officer was in touch with our office, in particular with Sean, who handles a lot of our food inspections. And so the environmental police officer had some real concerns and, had some rumblings of people accepting tuna off the back of boats, a few restaurants. And Sean went and inspected with the environmental police officer, and as it was stated, found evidence of that being the case. And I believe the environmental police officer did a little more investigation to find out, to confirm that really did happen. I would reiterate that this is it's a serious violation and needs to be taken very seriously. It's a dangerous fish. It needs to be processed and tagged with a wholesale dealer that goes through, pretty intensive process of, ensuring the safety of the fish, and dealing it back to the restaurants. So, I want to make sure that's clearly understood that it's not acceptable. So that's about all the information I have on that. So Sean might be able to give more detailed information if you need that.
Could you just comment on someone else? I can't see.
Carrie is also raising his hand.
Carrie, then I'll ask. Go ahead, Carrie.
Well, again, I appreciate that the owner came. But, again, there's an element of deception here about the receipts, and that bothers me because it could have come clean at the beginning. And this is, just kind of more, if you want to show appreciation for your staff, use the stock you got instead of taking the free stuff and giving it to them. So, I'm concerned. I mean, it's a good restaurant and everything, but, restaurants survive best by sticking to the codes and being honest.
Other comments, questions from the board? Could Roberto or Sean or Carrie go through this question of the receipts and the yes, we bought it, didn't we buy it?
Sean, Public Health Inspector with the town of Nantucket. Sean Reed. Yeah, as far as the receipts go, we found like tuna parts, bones, fins in their walk-in refrigerator and asked them to provide receipts from where they came from. Upon receiving those receipts by the end of the day, which we asked for, the receipts just stated tuna loin, which is a boneless piece of tuna that can easily kind of be, sliced into steaks or chopped and stuff like that. So a local dealer, permitted dealer provides most restaurants on the island with seafood. And so we asked them for all their receipts from about a week around that time frame. So that's kind of where the receipts come into play as far as the investigation goes.
So, but you were told that they did buy it legally at some point.
Yeah, we originally, so we were there for 2 days. We did, another follow-up the second day. The first day we were told that the parts came from the permitted dealer on Nantucket. And then after we received the receipts and confirmed with the dealer that the parts didn't come from them, we went back the second day and basically said, these didn't come from the dealer, which you told us the day before. They came from an unapproved source.
Right. Thank you. Anything else?
Can I say one thing on that, just real quick?
Please, go ahead.
So yeah, I did provide Sean with the invoices from the local vendors. And in the email, I did say that we did accept the fish that was not from a legal source. So I know like I mentioned at the start, I was not in the know about this fish that came in, but I think I made my email him back. I did tell him that we received fish from not a legal source. So then that kind of started the process of me figuring out what exactly happened. So yeah, I want to build a good relationship with Sean and the health department. So I don't want to be thought of as someone who's trying to deceive anybody in any serious matter. So I have all the invoices here and other things that show, how much pounds we bought over the course of the week, and then sales reports for how much tuna product we sold. And I'm willing to share any of that information if you'd like to see it.
Okay.
Also have purchase reports from the last couple of years from Glidden's and Nantucket Seafoods, just to show that we do support our local fish vendors, and that it's not the norm for us to try to get free fish, so.
Okay.
Meredith.
I guess, for Roberto or the department, is this a first offense? Is this something that has happened multiple times over years? I'm just curious.
This has happened before, but with a different owner. So we wouldn't want to hold this particular owner in.
That was my question. Thanks.
Is the question before us to excuse what happened and remove the suspension? Is there an option to have a lesser suspension, not 3 days, maybe 1 day, or a warning or something like that?
Exactly.
Yeah,
It-
we can, there is right now no particular suspension.
correct.
So we can do
Yeah,
0 days or however many we want to.
Correct. So what is in the packet is just the recommendation for the 3 days.
Yeah.
However, it is completely up to the board. The notice of violation will always stand. That's the letter of the inspection and the $500 ticket that was issued, and that's already discussed in the packet. What's here in front of the board is whether or not you want to impose a suspension as well, which is what is discussed in the food code, which is what is normal practice with something like
Right.
this. It has to go to the board based.
I
on-
don't see how we could just let this whole thing slide at all. I mean, they got to pay the price for something. What they did was wrong and they knew they were doing it wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, that's simple.
Well, excuse me.
I mean, they can say it'll never happen again, and it probably never will to them.
And
But
carry.
we have to let people know that you can't go around doing this.
All right. So is there anyone on the board that does not want to issue some kind of suspension?
I know Kerry has his hands up for, I think, a different situation.
And, yeah, I'd be willing to negotiate a number of days, but I think something needs to happen because I think that we have to be clear on what is allowed and, what makes for a healthy, safe businesses and eating, restaurant responsibility on the island.
No, I agree. I think the board all agrees we need to have a suspension. Now, the question is, how long is that suspension?
And the days are also up to you. How many days
Yeah,
and
it's
what
up
date
to us.
and
Yeah.
what date is up to you as well.
And the staff is recommending 3. Do you have any other?
I just recommend we leave it to
We
Roberto. We said we'll agree to suspension. We should let Roberto see how long these should be.
His recommendation is 3 days.
And I agree with him.
Can I say one thing? If you don't mind?
Please go right ahead.
Yeah, like I mentioned, we want to take full responsibility for this and we are gonna, do better and make sure that this doesn't happen again. As far as the suspension goes, like I said, we want to take responsibility. And I know the suspension would be a financial detriment to us, but also to our staff. Like I said, our staff's very important to us and they lost a few days of work, financially they'll be taking a hit as well. We don't want them to be punished for what we did. Obviously, that could be part of the business, but I would like you to consider how that would affect them too, especially when we have a short season on Nantucket. A lot of our employees are, saving money to bring home to other places in the world or whatever. And it's our duty to, kind of provide that venue for them. And we messed up this time. So we're happy, we definitely know we have to have a penalty. We're happy to pay a fine, but I guess in consideration of our staff, we were hoping not to be suspended or a 3-day length, I guess.
Okay. Comments from Carrie or Ann or Meredith? We've heard from Jim.
I would be happy to consider a shorter suspension. But I do agree that a strong statement needs to be made, not only to Slip 14, but to other restaurants that might have this happen to them. And a sort of a warning that you need to be really careful. So whatever,
Right.
agreement we all can come to. I'm not pushing for 3, but I think we need to do something.
Let's see, my other colleagues behind me.
I'm in agreement that, I think a suspension is in order. Even if the restaurant is not serving, there is work that can be done. So in terms of all the other, they could use that time to catch up on other tasks in the restaurant. So the workers don't have to be penalized necessarily. And I'd be willing though definitely to consider 1 or 2 day.
Meredith?
I agree. I would agree with Carrie and Ann.
Okay, so we're all in agreement as a suspension. I think there's a consensus that it does not necessarily have to be 3.
Malcolm, may I?
And 1 or 2 is what I'm hearing. Go ahead, Roberto.
So what you'll see also in the recommendation for Great Harbor Yacht Club is a suspension in abeyance, where what that means is you can still grant the suspension, but hold it off for the rest of the season if you would like. Because the difference is there's a difference between the two situations, and we'll be discussing Great Harbor later. So what can also be done is you can choose 1 day suspension to be served on a specific date. You can choose 1 day suspension to be served immediately. You can choose 1 day suspension with a second day being held in abeyance. All of those are methods of being able to do this as well.
And to be fair, we have we have 2 establishments here.
Mhm.
So if the board has no objection, we're going to hold a discussion on slip 14 and hear about Great Harbor Yacht Club.
Okay.
So that way we're not making one recommendation in isolation of the other. Is that okay with the board? I hear no objections, and let's talk about Great Harbor Yacht Club, and then I think we won't take them in isolation.
Correct.
Because I was heard there is a difference.
Yes. So a similar situation, this one was not requested by the environmental police. What happened was a inspection was being performed for a different matter. I believe it was permitting, Jake, correct? It was a routine inspection. And we did find a whole fish, a whole tuna that was in I believe the walk-in cooler. And immediately it was said, yes, this is a fish that we accepted. We're going to take it home. It's not for public consumption. It was an immediate discussion with an immediate removal. That's the biggest difference here, where it was at that moment they rectified the situation, which was different.
So it wasn't a violation.
Having it in the walk-in is a violation. Having it in, and that automatically triggers this hearing based on the food code, because it is in an unapproved source, even if it wasn't set for public consumption. That is the only reason why it's here. Usually we would handle something if it was, a person's personal sandwich in the cooler. That's just something that gets discussed. You put it in a inspection report, they remove it, and it's good to go. But because it's a predatory fish like tuna, swordfish, things like that,
It's a little different
it's very different
than a ham
It's,
sandwich.
Exactly.
Is there anyone from Great Harbor that wants to speak?
Good afternoon. I'm Stephen Crees, the General Manager of Great Harbor Yacht Club. I'm here with my head chef, Nico Fix, and my Food and Beverage Director, Assistant General Manager, Christian Pavesi. Again, I respect what the health department does, and in my almost 40 years in this business around the world, I've never been called before a health department, and I apologize for this situation. My chef was honest, as stated by Roberta Santamaria, and it was a member of our staff that actually put it in the cooler, just so it didn't get warm to take home. Trust me, we have a handbook where it's clearly written in a statement, because we have members that want to give us fish. We tell them no, it's actually in the handbook. They're not permitted to give it to us. We don't accept it. And this was just an incredibly unfortunate situation with a member of the staff that obtained this fish on a fishing boat and put it in our cooler. He did write a statement that I did give to Roberto.
It's in the packet.
And trust me, we also have signage, and this is a one-off situation, and trust me, nothing like this will ever happen again.
Okay. Any questions from the staff to the Great Harbor or from the board? Okay, thank you. Okay, so now we've heard, thank you for listening. Thank you. We've heard from both. So let's go back to the board and we'll go back. And since we start with slip 14, we'll then discuss what we're going to do with slip 14, and we'll discuss what we're going to do with Great Harbor. So slip 14 can come back.
Gary has a question.
If we kind of want to do like for like and separate though, because there is an issue of not being honest as opposed to kind of things being dealt with. I mean, to do a 1-day suspension effective immediately for slip 14 and, the proposed suspension held in abeyance for Great Harbor would be something I'd be willing to consider. But I think that we do need to speak with a strong voice about, what the code is, and, working with us is real. If you get caught, work with us, don't work against us.
All right, so any other comments? Carrie's suggesting a 1-day suspension.
So in abeyance would mean that it's
If anything else,
doesn't actually happen.
it doesn't actually happen unless something triggers that event. So for example, it's not a motion, but the recommendation on the floor now is that one of them gets shut down immediately, just for the 24-hour period. The other one with abeyance is it's not going to get shut down unless a triggering event happens. So that would be something like if it happens again, or any critical violation or something like that, and then it would be held immediately.
So essentially the difference of those two is the difference of 3-day and 1-day is recommended by the health department. One is an abeyance and one is immediate.
Correct.
Go ahead, Jim.
It doesn't seem quite fair to me to hold abeyance for one person and not give them any suspension and turn around and give the suspension to these people. Okay. They had a greater thing facing them. I mean, if you're gonna suspend them, you can't hold their suspension. And you've got to treat this thing so it doesn't happen again anytime. So if you're gonna, my feeling is if you're gonna do something with them, you have to do something with them at the same time. If you want to do 1 for them, 2 for them, or 3 for them, 2 for them, but I think we need to nip this in the bud right now. So we don't have to come back and face this the next time. If we do it now and settle this thing now, everyone gets a warning. They know what they're going to face.
All right, I think we're moving to some consensus here. We're getting there anyway. Any other comments from the board?
If I may. In the 8 years that I've been the director here, this is the first time we've ever had to come to the board with this. If you want to do the warning this time, I would not object to that.
Of course you want this stuff.
So you're not against a simple warning? Or a 1-day suspension and then
In
abeyance
for both.
for both?
Personally, I don't know. I would like the staff to also give their honest opinions. I do request that my staff speak honestly, and I do want to know their opinions.
Yeah, I do too.
Personally, being dragged in front of this board is a scary prospect
Yes, I know.
in and of itself.
And I've actually Jim and I have been on this board for 14 years, and we've never had this.
So,
I mean, I presently am kind of leaning towards whatever we do, it's done to both organizations. I agree with Jim's point.
Okay.
So the question is, I respect the staff, so.
Yeah, I do want to hear from my staff though.
So seeing by the way, the sound of you, Mr. Chairman, the way it's going. My opinion would be, I would say maybe a 1-day suspension for each establishment, or perhaps we hold a 3-day suspension above their head for any kind of violation, or maybe greater 5 days, 7 days over their head for any subsequent violation of this sort. Personally, I really just want to see both of these establishments do a better job in this scenario, because it's unacceptable. So that would be my suggestion as far as the penalty.
And what I just mentioned to Sean is he saw it. You dealt with the situation, and so did Jake. You with Slip and you with Great Harbor. So I would love to hear your opinions too, personally.
Yeah, I kind of want to mirror what John said. I think that, I have restaurant experience myself for years, and I feel for staff of restaurants.
Exactly.
I do think that whatever happens is a warning to kind of the other establishments on Nantucket. And so kind of just to mirror what John says, I would suggest either a 1-day suspension for both places, or kind of a 3-day suspension in abeyance if something happens in the future.
Okay.
Jake Bisco, Health Inspector. Dealing with the yacht club, they did immediately tell me that, it was there, it wasn't there for consumption of any of their guests. So it was nice that there was some honesty there, and they immediately got rid of it. And again, I agree with both Sean and John, pretty much in lockstep with what they said.
Okay, thank you. I think we've all we've heard the staff, the businesses involved, and the board. So I'm looking for a recommendation or a motion from the board, and then we will vote on it and see where we go.
Here. After listening to John and everyone, I kind of like the idea, since it just really is everyone, Malcolm and Jim and Roberto. I mean, you guys have been on this, dealing with the board for years, and this is the first time it's come up. These are places that don't have a history of doing this. That the idea of the fine and a 3-day suspension and abeyance. So if anything happens during, it's a major hit. And I guess the question I would have is that abeyance is for this season. It doesn't last a year. I mean, how does, is it on this permit and then next year we start over again, or how does that work?
Correct. The abeyance is only ever for the current permit year, and all permits expire on December 31st.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm looking for a motion. And then whatever the motion is, we'll vote on it. And if it passes, it passes. If it doesn't, we'll find another motion.
So I think the motion is to recommend a 3-day suspension in abeyance for both establishments.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
By roll call, or any further discussion? All right, we have a motion for both establishments for a 3-day suspension in abeyance, which will be on the record until the end of the present license. Meredith Lepre.
Yes.
Tim Cooper.
No.
Ann Smith.
Yes.
Carrie McKenna.
Yes.
The chairman votes yes. That's 4-1. 3-day suspension in abeyance.
Okay. Which, for the record, for both of you, it means you stay open. No one, you don't close for any days, but we'll be in touch. Okay. Thank you, guys.
Last week. Thank you very much.
Okay. We have condemnation to potentially be lifted for the basement of 55 Essex Road.
Yes, so this is a condemnation that had been ratified at a previous Board of Health meeting. The issues have been rectified. So we're looking to lift the condemnation. We need a vote.
Questions from the board? Do I hear a motion?
Well,
Motion to lift the condemnation of 55 Essex Road. Basement.
Yes. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm having trouble. The words are kind of muffled.
Meredith voted to.
Yes,
the condemnation.
okay, do we have a second? Yes,
Yes.
okay. Meredith Lepre,
Yes.
James Cooper.
Yes.
Ann Smith.
Yes.
Carrie,
yes,
and the chairman votes yes. The condemnation is lifted. Now we have a condemnation of a dwelling at 34 Hinsdale Road.
Yes, so this was an inspection that was done by John and Jake at a couple weeks ago now. And we did have to issue an emergency condemnation for that property due to various violations. We just need the board to ratify it with a positive vote.
Any questions from the board?
do we have information about this? Because nothing in this packet. Was this in the past packet?
Yes, it was actually only brought up to my attention last night that it was not in the packet. I don't know if it made it to the packet today, but I know John is here for that information.
Yeah. So we originally called, there was a complaint filed for this property for, of a camper on the property in which we were going to, which we inspected for. And also part of the complaint was for a dwelling on the building, barn structure of, the complaint was unsanitary conditions. We inspected with the fire department at that time in the morning time. And all I can say is it was one of the worst housing scenarios I've been on. No smoke detectors, unfinished floors and walls in the bathrooms. There was a gas propane tanks being used as a heater and for an oven stove. There were car batteries being used to charge phone batteries and, electricity and power for certain utensils and everything. And later that afternoon, we went back with the wiring inspector, building commissioner, and plumbing inspector, fire department. Fire department immediately shut off their gas to the building. And obviously no smoke detectors, which is an emergency 48-hour fix. But due to the fire department on the scene recommended that we condemn it right there. So we decided to condemn it then. So.
Any other questions? Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any other questions, discussion?
Yeah, just in the future, if we could get something, a report, to have in front of us, because I absolutely trust, but it's nice to have, at least a copy of the initial form or something, but no, what they describe is not acceptable.
Yes, we usually put the inspection reports in the packet. We just missed them this year, this week. My apologies.
Okay.
Yeah, I would concur. We're just going on word here.
Yeah.
What
What we will do is I'll have it retroactively added to the packet as well, and then I'll email out to you.
Yeah, mail it out. And I think for the next one too,
Correct.
because we don't
Yeah,
have
the two-
anything on
the-
73 Cato.
Yeah, the 2 inspection reports were not in there.
So, all right, so we have a motion for 34 Hinsdale by roll call, Meredith Lepre,
Yes.
James Cooper.
Yes.
Ann Smith,
Yes.
Carrie McKenna,
Yes.
and chairman votes yes, aye as well. That condemnation is approved. We have one for 73 Cato Lane. And you'll do the same thing with that.
Yes, so in this situation, it's in the housing code, you're not allowed to live in a trailer that's either hard plumb or not plumbed at all, unless for a temporary use for an emergency situation, and it has to be voted on by the board. In this case, we did find people living in this trailer. It is definitely not fit for habitation. Same situation. There was no real ventilation, no real electricity. It was your typical just long, it was just a long black trailer with doors built into it. Usually used to just transport storage material that had been converted.
Yep, but Roberto just covered everything. Sean and myself inspected the trailer due to a complaint of people living inside there. We did find someone inside of the trailer at the time of inspection. There were 2 beds there. And the trailer definitely had been converted into habitable space, or not habitable space by the housing code, but space where people were living in. So, and any temporary housing needs Board of Health approval, which obviously this one does not have.
Thank you. Questions from the board?
Yeah, this wasn't even a recreational trailer. This was truly a tractor trailer back, pod type thing.
Oh, yes. It
Okay.
was a 18-foot trailer, I think it was, something like that. It was just your typical work storage trailer with the 2 wheels that gets pulled behind a truck.
Okay, I guess. Pretty impressive.
Thank you. Do I have a motion in regards to condemnation of 73 Cato Lane?
So moved.
Second, someone?
Second.
By roll call, Meredith Lepre,
Yes.
James Cooper.
Yes.
Ann Smith,
Yes.
Carrie McKenna.
Yes.
Chairman votes aye as well. That is condemned. Short-term rental bylaw discussion.
Yes, so
We did enough of that last night. We're going to do it again.
if you watched the 3-hour meeting last night, you are very well informed about this. Or if you were present, Malcolm. Really what it comes down to is the board. I wanted to make sure the board knew that the select board yesterday did vote to put the SDR bylaw for the special town meeting coming in November. So as a result, I will also put it on the agenda for the September meeting so that we can vote in recommendation of or against as a board. We have not reviewed it as a board like we normally do for town meetings, so we will do that in September. The other reason this was on here was because we have canceled the contract with Granicus, which was the software that was supposed to be able to create the registration program for us. After missing significant amounts of milestones, and to be honest, we are now 8 months behind schedule with still nothing really to show for it. The finance director and I had discussions of not only canceling the contract, but also going back and requesting taxpayer money in return. They have not met their performance standards. We are currently in the process of scheduling meetings with other vendors. Right now, we have 2 meetings with GovOS and Rentalscape by Deckard Technologies next week. There is a small working group composed of Kathy Baird, Lisa Wynn, Penny Dye, Brian Turbett, and myself, who will be reviewing these softwares in person. And we are already in communication with other communities that have used this software. Glendale, Arizona, and Kauai, Hawaii uses GovOS. And I believe Portland, Oregon uses Rentalscape. So we have reached out to them, and we're waiting to hear back on how their process has been going. Both Rentalscape and GovOS say that they can have our program up and running within 9 to 12 weeks, which would be well before our town meeting. However, it is still, regardless of whoever we choose, over a year after the initial deployment date was expected. So now we're looking to roll out short-term rentals January 1st of 2024, which the original deadline was January 1st of 2023, which is why we've canceled Granicus.
Does the board have any questions before I have some? If you look at the bylaw, it's quite in some ways complicated bylaw. Do you feel you have adequate staff and ability to enforce that? Because
So I had a discussion with Ms. Barrett of the moderator for the short-term rental work group after this bylaw was originally proposed. And there are some aspects that, yes, we definitely are able to enforce. And when it comes to the registration processes, there are some sections of the bylaw that I would find downright unenforceable.
difficult.
Very difficult, particularly the 4 versus 9 turnovers. We have no way to track that unless they admit it themselves. And I don't know if GovOS or Rentalscape would be able to handle that as well. That's why we're meeting with them personally to discuss our specific issues, which is also why Penny, Lisa, and Kathy are part of that work group to be able to do Nantucket specific issues. But without the final voted on bylaw that we finally saw
You don't know
yesterday,
what it's gonna
we wouldn't know what was capable. So are we able to register? That's an office situation, and I think yes. Are we able to enforce every single aspect of the new bylaw? That remains to be seen.
Does the was Article 39 that
Last year's,
does that need to be looked at again? Or some of the regulations?
since we haven't been able to put it into practice, I would recommend against changing it at all right now, because we don't know what it's actually going to look like until we roll it out. We'll know more by February or March of next year.
Because there's been a lot of questions about that as well.
It's going to be difficult. The question is how difficult. We already do have a very busy staff. It is a significant amount of work burden that is going to be put on the health department. We just don't know how much. And it's the short-term rental program was the impetus for 1 or 2 retirements this last year, these last 18 months, because they've also felt that the amount of work that is coming in is extremely burdensome.
We'll have to keep track of that. It's my concern.
We're definitely, as the department head, I am very concerned about
Both the Article 39 and the ability to keep up with this whole issue. Because if we can't enforce it, and then there's really no point in having it. Like many of our regulations on this island.
And as you may remember, 5 years ago now, when we were first talking about the biodegradable bylaw, when I did specifically say to the select board and this board when we had a joint meeting, I don't like having regulations on our books that we're not enforcing. If it's on our books, we're going to go after it. So we need this support to do so.
Right.
I know Meredith and Carrie both have.
I'm sure Mr. Barnes has a comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Curtis Barnes. I just wonder if anyone has made an effort to reach out to the folks in Yarmouth or Barnstable who have had a rental registration since 2006. I have met with both of them. It's fairly simple. I had a house in West Yarmouth and I had to register. I went in, filled out the form. And then after this started here, I went back and talked to the inspector over there. And I certainly hope that we would maybe have a visit or have a conversation with them, because they've got a system that works. And it seemed pretty simple to me. And this seems like it's out of control, but I'm supportive. I just encourage you to look at right across the water, an hour boat ride, and talk to some people who made it work for almost 20 years. Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, have we talked to them?
We definitely met with Barnstable and Yarmouth. Both of them use Granicus, but they were also put onto Granicus back when their software Host Compliance was an independent contractor. Granicus bought Host Compliance. So Yarmouth and Barnstable had an already functioning program before Granicus screwed it up.
So we can't use their functioning program?
We have a very different bylaw. Is really the truth there. It's not an apples to apples comparison anymore because of the way our bylaw was passed last year or 2 years ago now.
Well, please keep us informed, but I think as the year goes on, we're going to have to look at this and our
Over and over again.
N39 and make sure it's all actually works.
Correct.
And someone is raising their hand behind me.
Both Meredith and Carrie.
Go ahead. Carrie, go ahead.
Carrie, you're still muted.
Or
Okay,
Meredith, go ahead.
thank you. Sorry about that. I had a concern Roberto has that passing regulations that are unenforceable is definitely problematic. And the other issue is, and I know this is somewhat historic in this discussion, is my concern is how much is the Board of Health's voice being heard by the other groups that actually seem to be driving the process. And I'm just concerned that the people who are expected to enforce haven't had a chance to really express their concerns and be heard.
Meredith?
So I would like to see, and I don't know how to go about this, if we just see if we can add it as a addendum to the bylaw, but I think that maybe there needs to be a position created just for this, or 2 positions. I'm not sure, but it seems like the town is very interested in spending thousands upon thousands of dollars for moderators for a work group that didn't come up with the greatest plan. But then
that's your opinion.
That's my opinion.
Yeah.
Because I sat through most of the meetings. But I'm wondering if instead we could spend thousands of dollars on a person to run it, so that we're not really putting all of this on the health department when there's not enough people. I mean, they need more people. So I think that along with this, there probably should be something added for a position to enforce this, so that we aren't setting ourselves up for failure.
So that is twofold. The answer is we are already looking into adding a position for this. The reason we were having this 1-year trial period with Granicus was in order to find out how much of a burden to see if it was going to be 1 position or 2. Unfortunately, with Granicus missing those performance standards, we didn't have a chance to review what type of burden. But we are still in discussions with town administration about possibly adding another person. The second part of that, though, when I say it's twofold, if you spend any time at 131 Pleasant Street recently, you would know that the health department is also bursting at the seams. We literally physically cannot fit another staff member in the building. So what we were also having discussion with town admin is already aware, and we've had these discussions of possibly setting up some sort of hybrid work environment for some positions. So that is the negotiation we're in right now.
I think, well, we haven't resolved anything today, but I think I just want to bring this subject up that it's a alluring problem.
Correct.
Maybe not.
Yeah.
Maybe it will all just be wonderful and will be enforceable and your system will work. But I think someone said we don't want to fail at this since it has sort of been put into our responsibility.
Correct.
And
correct. And I wanted it on the agenda just so that we can begin that discussion.
right.
And then at next meeting, I'll have the actual bylaw as voted on by the select board for discussion. The one that's already printed out on the warrant.
We vote on it again.
We usually vote on
On that.
whether we recommend yes or no
Right.
on this sort of
Right.
thing.
Okay, director's report.
So really quick, we do have it on the schedule for Jericho Mealy to be here at next meeting to give a human services update. We have been in discussions of what that's going to look like. So
I mean Jericho on this.
he will be at the next meeting on the 20th.
Yeah, because then,
September
yeah, because we
21st.
had. And Meredith had mentioned substance abuse grants and stuff like that.
Yes.
So
So
we'll talk about all of that.
exactly. So Jericho will be able to give us the quick update. Well, more than quick. It's going to be much longer than quick, Meredith, because we're going to be talking about all our grants, the behavioral health initiative, and the new position that was opened up for behavioral health work, the new nonprofit that's under the umbrella of CFN right now. And then also the transition with Fairwinds and how that's going. We should be able to have a full update on that. So that's just coming. So I want to let just make sure that that is still on our mind.
Right.
The well regulation has been in discussion. Michael met with John and I yesterday separately. He's also met with Mr. Blackwell, who discussed.
He had some good ideas.
He had some very good ideas, and I believe we've come up with a good recommendation. Michael is now integrating all those comments, all 4 of our comments together. And we'll be able to circulate a final draft within the next 2 weeks. The September 21st meeting will be in the trailer. They do need this, the finance committee needs this room for the town meeting warrant articles. So we will be meeting at 131 Pleasant Street trailer. And I'd be happy to give all of you a tour of our office. So you can see what I was mentioning earlier. And then tick-borne illnesses this year has been surprisingly lower than last year. We don't know if that is a artificial drop based on a smaller population that we have seen this summer, or if it's that people are also being diagnosed elsewhere. Or do we have a true drop in tick-borne illness? So I'm in the process of looking through into that information right now. And I don't know if you saw on social media, our public information officer and I, we're setting up a new tick webpage that we're setting up with new videos that we're looking to do in English, Spanish, and Portuguese, so that we can do better outreach. And then this last summer, they also did a sunscreen and melanoma outreach campaign. So that was very effective.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that. You mentioned that last time.
Yeah, the first outreach started in July, so early July. And she is able to get it out, and she got it out in English, Spanish, Portuguese, and it is a dedicated web page now on the town website. So that should be it's also under the health department's section. And then lastly, Meredith, I do see your hand up. So just one more update. We have one more retirement coming in after 21 years. Kathy Lefebvre has decided to retire. So she is not here today, but her last day will be in September. So when we do,
Oh, we'll have.
So
have
please
to
come
do a
by
good
and-
Send off.
yes. So over the Friday before Labor Day weekend, we'll be having a little get together at our office. So we'd be happy to have people stop by.
Let me know when.
Absolutely. And then the one more, another office change as well. Ann Medina retired last spring, and we were able to have Tamika Gary start in our office just a few weeks ago. So we now have a new office manager as well, and she has experience with the town as well. She was working at DPW. She's been a great addition already, and she has some great ideas on how to increase the efficiency of our work. So we're
Good.
looking forward to integrating that.
Good. Meredith has a comment, then I have a couple.
Okay, Meredith?
Related to sorry, my children are screaming.
We don't have them.
The tick-borne diseases being down. How does the information get from the hospital? Because I recently learned about its reporting, and when you call the state, they say they want the blood work, but if somebody comes in with a bullseye rash and that's what it is and you treat them, that's not how they want it reported.
Correct.
So for example, if you work at urgent care and see a rash, that may not get reported to the state then, unless somebody calls through the Epic notes and reports it that way. I'm not sure. So I think that someone has a rash, it may not get reported. I don't know.
So that has been an issue that we've always run into, some underreporting. And what we do, so the state never calls something confirmed unless it's laboratory confirmed with blood work. So what we do locally in order to do our tick counts, we take both confirmed and suspect. So if you see a bullseye rash and you put that into the Epic information, that Epic does have a automatic upload to the state based on the state regulation. However, that automatically gets uploaded as a probable or suspect case, and usually it gets revoked from there because the blood work was never done. However, it is in the system, and that system we do see. So unless there is a healthcare provider that is not even putting it into the Epic into the Epic channel, we are getting even those simple suspect or reportable, and that's the numbers that we use on a local level.
Perfect. Thank you.
One other thing, and also next month, you're gonna do 2 minutes on summer house.
Yes, is the summer house update.
And another thing I'm getting questions about. And I have it myself, I've seen some very green lawns.
Yeah.
Very green lawns.
We can't hear.
Water.
Oh, Malcolm, is your Malcolm turned off?
I think it is.
I mean, your
I don't see the
microphone.
light.
There you go.
So I was wondering if in September you could kind of update us on the progress of our fertilizer activities?
Yes, actually, really quick. And yeah, we'll have a more comprehensive one.
Yeah,
in
comprehensive, 'cause
September.
I know.
But the good news is, right as I was coming in here, I was talking with our colleague at NCTV. I did finally get all of our commentary for the videos, for the new videos, the new training videos that are going to be used for the new fertilizer program. I finally got those to NCTV. So hopefully at the next meeting, I'll be able to give you a full update.
Give us a
on
full
those
up of the
with
process,
links.
and I think there'll be a couple people from the public will want to speak and ask questions, because
Absolutely. So what
we can't forget about these things.
Absolutely. And one of the things that we've been looking to do, and I believe these videos will be able to accomplish, is for the lay person, a regular homeowner or a renter will be able to watch these videos and also be able to follow the BMP, the best management practice, which has been part of our issue all along.
All right.
So,
Thank you.
yes, sir.
Any other comments from the board?
I'm just wondering a little bit, and it may not be our purview, but I'm sure we've all seen a really damning report about the fire department from a consultant that came in and looked at some things. And some of the things that they're talking about and complaining about would have nothing to do with us. But some of them have to do with things that are putting firefighters at risk, health-wise and stuff. And I was not sure whether that might have to do with us and whether in any way we should get involved.
There is, so as far as operational or operations of the fire department, we have zero jurisdiction over.
Exactly. Yeah.
As far as cancer information, things like that, which was the primary scope of this consultant. We're more than happy to run information. Our public health nurse is not an occupational safety nurse, so she is not allowed to, her scope of practice does not include looking at the work environment. But what we can do and what she can do is provide screenings. And that is something that we will be more than happy to help with. We need to support our firefighters, our public safety in general. That is purview of public health.
I just thought maybe that we should analyze that report a little bit. Or maybe more than a little bit carefully to see what it is saying that we might need to address.
It's a good idea.
I agree. I would, and I think it's a great idea, and I would charge the board as homework for the next meeting to really read that report. Is it?
I've only seen a summary.
I've seen a summary.
Yeah.
Roberto, could you get us a full report?
I will work on that. I will reach out to
It should
Chief
be
Cranston.
public knowledge somewhere in the town,
I'll reach out to Chief Cranston.
and just send it to the board.
Mhm.
And then we'll September looks like it's going to be a busy. We'll touch base on, put it on the agenda for September, just to, even if the board can all we'll check off whether they've done their homework or not, at least.
And then I know Meredith and then Carrie.
So in that same sort of vein, I know that Bob Bates spoke at the meeting yesterday about like emergency, and I don't know where we fall in this, but as a public safety issue, if you look at like what happened in Maui, something like that could happen here very easily. And I just think we really need to be supportive of our firefighters, and one, making sure that they're not being unknowingly, or not, I guess not unknowingly, but being exposed more to things because they don't have enough people, as well as like, how do we make people aware that these things are happening? If there's a huge fire and people can't get out of town or can't get away from where they are, I think that is a public safety and public health concern to be exposed to all the smoke. So that's just my thoughts on this.
Carrie?
Yeah, and I guess mine was kind of similar to Meredith's. It's like, do we have those plans in place, from a town point of view, but also from civilian point of view? Because again, we are 30 miles out to sea. So like Hawaii, I mean, you have to use the resources immediately available in the event of a catastrophic emergency. And, how well prepared are we as a town, or, as a board of health, but also as a town in general? So, and that when I saw that the firefighter report, I kind of, and you have the Maui stuff happening at the same time, it's like it kind of all came together that, this is important, and there are lessons to be learned that we maybe should be taking to heart. That's all.
Absolutely. Understood.
Okay. Do you all want to stay, or do I hear a motion for adjournment?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
I hear a second. All in favor by roll call. Meredith Lepre,
Yes.
Jim Cooper, Ann Smith.
Yes.
Carrie
Yes.
and Malcolm says yes. We'll see you next month.
Is it
Thank
3
you.
o'clock again, or do you know yet? Maybe
I
you don't
will
know.
take a look to make sure it's not at 3 o'clock. Yes.
Yeah.
How you doing? Oh, yeah, good.